Hello, GovCon Giants family. In today's episode, we have someone by the name of Dionne, who is a GovCon Giants student, and she was scammed. That's right, straight up, she was scammed, defrauded out of almost $90,000. Yes, $90,000. What? So check this out. If you think you're too smart or too savvy for this to happen to you, take a listen to this episode because it's going to shine a light on something that's happening to small businesses out there. After the call with Dionne, I spoke to someone from the Department of Justice, and they let me know and informed me about other situations where other companies had actually had to close down their business from being scammed by people like the ones that took advantage of Dionne. Now, before I even had a chance to make this interview today, before I even got a chance to finish, I received an email myself. Take a look on the screen. I received an email from someone claiming to be Song Hung, and he's a small business specialist, 467 W Street, Bremerton, Washington. And for me, I knew it was a scam. I'm like, Eric, well, how did you know it was a scam? Well, first of all, first sign, small business specialists don't send solicitations out. Doing. That's the first tell sign. If you get a solicitation from a small business specialist, delete it. Delete it. Before you delete it, let the small business specialist know, hey, people out there are using your name, okay? Now, the other thing is, why would someone send me a project from Japan? I don't work in Japan. Why would somebody send me an HVAC job? I don't do HVAC. Again, now, you may say to yourself, well, Eric, maybe because I'm in construction. All right, you're trying to put the pieces together and make it work. But if you have not, let me tell you something. If you've not reached out to an agency, and you have not spoken to someone from that agency, if you have not talked to a small business specialist or a contracting officer or somebody at the agency, and you're expecting to receive a document from that particular person, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to caution you, I don't want you to be on this show and be a victim as well. Stay tuned, watch the video. At the end, we're going to give you some more tips that I have on how you can avoid being scammed. The reason why we're on the call today, because you sent me an email discussing something that happened with you in terms of a fake purchase order. Can you tell us, first of all, tell us your name and then your company and what happened?
Okay, my name is Dionne Spriggins, and I own a company called DRS Contracting. And like most of the people that are working with you, started a company with the intention of getting a government contract, reaching out to several different people, registering everywhere I was supposed to register, and just waiting to see, what was going to happen. So I received this purchase order from a place called Arctic.gov. And so the first thing that went through my mind was, is that even a legitimate agency? Because I'd never heard of Arctic.gov. So I received a lot of, spam email, but they're very obviously spam. This didn't appear to be spam. So when I saw Arctic, I thought, let me look it up. So I Googled Arctic, and it really was an agency. I Googled the leadership there, and it was listed as a John Farrell, and this was the man's name on the purchase order. So I thought, okay, maybe this is legitimate. So I have a lot of other things going on, so I actually wasn't thinking anything about it. But my kids and I were taking a vacation to Universal Studios, and our flight was delayed by about 2 hours. So I'm, really annoyed and thinking, okay, what can I do in these 2 hours? And when I thought about the purchase order, and so I thought, well, let me try something. So they asked for, I believe it was 80 hard drives, something Seagate, a Seagate hard drive. So I thought, let me Google Seagate hard drives and see what they cost.
Okay.
And so I saw that, X number drives will cost this. So I added 15%. And like I said, I've never done it before. So I added 15% thinking that would be my profit. And then I would, turn it around and send it to this guy. So I did that. And I didn't think anything about it. I figured I probably wouldn't even hear from him again because I'm thinking, whomever Seagate is, they can offer them a better price than I can, so why would they buy from me? So I didn't think I'd hear anything about it. So it wasn't long after that, I'm going to guess maybe a week or so later, the same company sent an amended purchase order. So this time, instead of having just the hard drive, they asked for something called a Surface Pro, I believe.
Okay.
And they want 33 Surface Pros, and they added something. Oh, projectors. There was some kind of projectors that they wanted, and it might have been like maybe 15 projectors.
Okay.
And so, again, it was the same thing. I went online, found out what these things cost, added 15%, and sent that amount to John Farrell, and thought, okay, I'll just see what happens.
Right.
So it was sometime in early September. So this might have been maybe 2 weeks later that I got a message from John Farrell saying, we approved your purchase order. So, and it had all the information. The first order was filled in. It said where it was to be shipped to, where I'm supposed to send my invoice and all of that. And I thought, how about that? I actually got a contract. So I thought it was just that simple. Everything's going to get checked out. Now, I will tell you something that I used to be a government employee.
Okay.
But this was a long time ago. And the one thing I knew about government employees was the format of the email. So I cannot say to you that I wasn't suspicious. The first time I was suspicious was the name. But when I found out that Arctic.gov really is a government agency.
No, actually, it's fine. I'm looking at it now. I've never heard of Arctic.gov myself. And I'm like, what in this world? Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. So you looked up Arctic.gov and you saw that they're a real agency. Okay.
Yeah, so I found out that it was real. And then again, John Farrell, he really was the director. His picture was there. But the thing about the email that caught me off guard, usually the government emails have a format. So it would be your first name dot your last name at theagency.gov. And that's normally the format. But this format was his first initial, J. Farrell at Arctic.gov, instead of being John.Farrell at Arctic. But everything else checked out. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm just splitting hairs here. But again, it did catch my attention. And again, I think it's the kind of thing where when you've been doing this for a while and you finally get that thing, and you're thinking, whoa, this is kind of cool. Then, again, I'm thinking that didn't look right. But at the same time, I'm thinking everything else checked out. So I'm just being paranoid.
Let me ask you this. What they sent you in the email, the solicitation, was it was a proposal request? How was it? What did they send you? How did they send it to you?
Go ahead.
How did they send it to you? Like, what did it look like?
It was a form.
Okay.
I forget what the form name was. I think I might have it. So maybe I can send it to you. You can see it.
Okay.
It was a form. I think that form was legitimate. I think that they somehow managed to get a form and then they just filled it in.
Gotcha.
So the form was a legitimate form. And also something else that I didn't pick up on, the signature. I didn't bother looking at the signature, and I don't think that looked like John Farrell in the signature. But again, people have weird signatures, and so it's not necessarily. If you saw my signature, you would never see Dionne in my signature. It doesn't say anything like that.
Okay.
So, but when I looked at it after the fact, I looked at it and thought that doesn't look like John Farrell. But again, that's the kind of thing that you can make a big deal about because people's signatures are sometimes sloppy and you can't read them. So anyway, so the purchase order came in and everything again was legitimate. They had the name of a real destination. So the woman's name in that destination was real. The destination was real. Everything was real. So when I found out that it wasn't real was when someone from the Department of Justice contacted me. And the funny thing is, at this time, this was the due date. The due date was the 20th of September. So I'm running around trying to make sure that everything was set up. And something else I need to tell you is I didn't know at that time about credit. I thought that if I went to the bank with a government purchase order and showed them the order and that it was issued to me, that they would see it, they would give me a loan based on that, and that I could just turn around and pay them back once the government paid me in 30 days.
Right.
So that was what I thought.
Okay.
Well, that didn't happen. And so one of the problems that I had was I ordered about $100,000 worth of equipment, and I didn't have $100,000, and the bank was not loaning me $100,000 based on the purchase order. It doesn't work like that. But you probably already knew that. I didn't know that. So anyway, I'm running around trying to figure out where am I going to get $100,000 to fill this order now that I've won it. And I'm thinking, I can't just call them and say, sorry, I made a mistake, because they had a deadline, because the way he said it, it was it has to be in by the 20th because the installers are coming in, and we make sure everything that we need is there for when they're ready to do this installation.
Man, they are serious, huh? They went all the way. Yes. No, that's convincing. That's very convincing.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So I was like, oh, when am I going to get $100,000? And I didn't want to cancel because I thought it would make me look bad. I would never get another purchase order ever, something, and figure out how to do this. Well, I have a 401k. So I went to my 401k and I talked to my advisor, and he said that you can borrow against your 401k as long as you pay it back within 60 days.
Okay.
And so I had more than enough in my 401k to cover the cost of the equipment. So that's what I did. I borrowed money against my 401k. I paid all the suppliers. Everybody was shipping everything. And then the Department of Justice called me. And the funny thing is, he said, you know why I'm calling, don't you? Well, I had no idea. Because at this time, I'm thinking it's still real.
Yeah, no, of course, right. You're like, one of my friends did something, right? Like a friend of mine did something wrong. That's what I would have thought. That's what I would have thought.
Thinking, what did I do? I'm thinking, what did I do? I'm thinking, all I did was sneeze.
Okay.
That's what was it. So, and I have this habit of, when I'm on the phone, sometimes I will be on my computer at the same time. So I'm pulling up my email, and one of my suppliers said, oh my God, we think this might be fraudulent. Well, at the same time, the Department of Justice is on the phone. So I'm like, oh my God. And so he explained the whole thing to me. Now, the way he explained it to me was, when the purchase order came in, the guy said, it needs to be in by the 20th and send me the tracking order so we can track it. Well, I never did send the tracking order. And so what would have happened was, when I sent him the tracking order, he would have contacted the sender and said, we're redirecting this order. And it would have gone to some other person who would have taken the equipment and shipped it to Africa. This is what the FBI, the Department of Justice, is saying to me.
Okay.
So the reason that I didn't get scammed, well, not completely scammed, was because I never sent the tracking number. So it actually reached the legitimate destination.
Right.
So, of course, it's the legitimate agency, and they're like, we have no idea why this stuff is here. We didn't order it. What's going on? And so that is how the whole thing came about.
Let me tell you something. You have a really good spirit about this. I think that most of us out here would be devastated. Like, oh my gosh. Wow. That's interesting. Now, how did the Department of Justice get involved, and why? Like, what did they say? How did they know this even existed?
I think and again, I'm thinking, because I really don't know. And interestingly enough,
right,
the man told me this whole thing was a scam. He said, tell everybody you know. He said, if you know anyone that would like me to come and speak to them, I would speak to them. So he may be open to you doing a podcast.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
But as far as how he knew, I'm still not sure about that, because it was the kind of thing where when this is the thing. I consider myself to be pretty savvy. I don't consider myself to be naive and, gullible.
Sure.
And so when he's telling me this, one of the first things I did was to question him. I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe you're the fake person.
No, true, right? Like, wait a second, maybe you. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, how do I know you're real? And so anyway, he's like, I didn't say this to him, but he may have been hearing it in my voice, but I was in a complete state of disbelief. I'm thinking, this is not real. I've been doing this for, about 3 weeks, dealing with this. This is real. It's real. I saw the purchase order. I saw the website. I saw Dr. Farrell. I saw everything. This is real. You're the one that's fake. So this is what's going through my head. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So anyway, when I finally accepted the fact that he was real, that meant everything else was fake. And the only thing that went through my mind is, oh my God, I just lost $100,000. And I was sick. And because my body's getting really tight, I'm just, thinking, oh my God, I lost $100,000. So anyway, he says, you don't have to worry about it because we have all the equipment. And so he explained to me how the scam works. And he said, but because you didn't send the tracking number, they weren't able to redirect it. And he said that this has been going on for a while, and a lot of small businesses have gone out of business because they did send the tracking number.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And
they're responsible because it's not the vendor's fault. So they're responsible. So he was telling me it has put people out of business because of this kind of stuff. So anyway, in my case, one person had not shipped their stuff yet, so I said cancel it. Don't even bother shipping it. I'm sorry, one person didn't fill the order yet, so he wasn't even in the process of shipping. So I said cancel the order. The other person was going to ship it that day, so I contacted him and said cancel the order. And so the ones that did ship, of course, they had reached the destination. It was a matter of the government sending them back to the shipper and then them reimbursing me.
Okay.
So I contacted everybody, and everything is okay with the first two, but with the one that actually did reach its destination and had to be returned, they're charging me a shipping cost because it's not their fault,
right?
Which makes sense. So that's about $600.
Okay.
And then they're also charging me a restocking fee.
Right. I was going to say.
And you're talking about a restocking fee on about $76,000 worth of equipment. So that was quite hefty. So I am out about maybe $4,000 to $5,000 out of pocket.
Oof.
Yeah. And so that is, that stings. But when I think about how bad it could have been,
right.
Yeah,
you came out. You came out pretty unscathed, considering.
Right. Relatively speaking, and I understand that for some people they're listening thinking $5,000 is a lot of money. Yeah, it is a lot of money.
No, of course.
I thought for a second that I was out $100,000.
Right.
So that would have,
that'd have been detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what I have to do now is recover all of that money because I explained to you that my 401k, I could borrow it for 60 days. So I'm still in the process of getting all of this money returned to me, and I have until November 9th. Otherwise, I'm going to have a penalty assessed against my 401k, which would be more money. Wow. So if I can get that back in time, then it's just a matter of, losing the $4,000 or $5,000 worth of,
right.
restocking fee. But if they don't get the money back to me in time, it's going to be penalties from the IRS. So yeah, that was my lesson learned about
wow.
Going kind of with your gut. Because like I said, Jay Farrell, I thought to myself, that's not the format of a government email.
Right.
But I think part of the problem also, Eric, was I didn't realize this was even going on. If someone had said to me, hey, be aware because there's some really sophisticated people sending what looks like legitimate purchase orders, and it's very easy to be put there, at least I would have been questioning it.
Right.
And another thing, when I tried the name on the purchase order was John Farrell, and he had a phone number. I tried calling the phone number and the call would never go through. And so that was another red flag. But again, with the government, it seems like these people are so annoyed with people like us calling them, for work,
right.
them, that I could see them not taking calls. So when a call didn't go through, I just figured that's just another government employee not to be bothered with people like me, and they turned off the ability to be able to reach them by phone.
Now, did the person have a .gov email address?
Yes.
.gov?
.gov, yes.
Interesting. What would you tell people how? Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say when the Department of Justice called me, Harry said, "Send me the email that he sent you." And I sent it to him, and he was able. They're in cyber security or something.
Okay.
And he was able to pull it apart and see how they were able to make it look as if it came from .gov. So yeah, like I said, if you're willing to talk to him, I can give you his information. You can say, hey, this is what I do. And Dionne said you're willing to talk to us, and he could explain to you how he was able to see it. Again, I'm not that computer savvy.
No.
But it
That's
did
great.
say Arctic.gov. Yeah.
No, any information that we could put out there to help prevent this from happening to other people, that's perfect. That's great. What do you think that people can do to avoid this from happening to them?
What I would say is make sure that you speak to the person that you're buying from. I don't care how legitimate it looks. And what I would do is I would send an email saying, well, I'm trying to think, if you send an email, you might warn them. I would send an email. I would call them and say, I wasn't able to reach you on the phone because when John Farrell, when the whole thing fell apart, this guy was trying to figure out, he wants his stuff. So he started calling me. Well, when I saw John Farrell at Arctic.gov, he's a Caucasian American.
Right.
This guy was clearly not an American. He had an extremely thick accent. I could barely understand what he was saying. He didn't sound like he was Caucasian. And so that was, I would say talk to the person. If the person doesn't sound right, then hang up. Now, he could always, employ someone who has an
right,
American
definitely.
accent
No, of course.
to say,
Yep.
call this person.
But that's one measure to help prevent that. I'm looking on the Arctic.gov website. John Farrell's email address is jfarrell@arctic.gov. Could you have cross-referenced the email from what you received versus the one that's online?
Wait, are you saying that online it is J. Farrell?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because see, I thought it would have been John Farrell.
No,
that's what it said.
I'm online. It says jfarrell@arctic.gov.
Well, that's one I got. That's what I got. Now, again, you would have to talk with the Department of Justice to figure out how they're able to do that.
Okay.
Because it came from j.farrell@arctic.gov.
Well, that's what his email is. So
that was it, and that's what. Yeah. So they're better than I thought. See, again, it's hard. It's hard to know, because I would have thought that would have been a dead giveaway to John. At Arctic. I'm going to send you.
Yeah, send me the email, and I would like to see also the purchase order, because for me, you're actually not the first person that's happened to. I've heard it from someone else, and when I saw the purchase order, it looked fake to me. That's why I'm curious if the purchase order looked real, legitimate, because normally. But I have seen some agencies send like Microsoft Word purchase orders as well, and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks unofficial, but it did come from a legitimate agency. So I've seen it both ways. So I could understand how someone would be confused by it. But yeah, send it to me. And no, listen, what would you like to share and tell people about the experience? Now, why did you not look into doing supplier credit for that? This is kind of a separate topic from the actual experience. Why did you not try and get credit from the suppliers?
I didn't even know that was an option.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, I want you to know I hadn't gone through your course yet.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. I do have 2 videos on supplier credit on YouTube. Just so you know.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll look into it, and then that's just for, again, that's just unrelated. And the reason why I encourage people to do supplier credit, one is because, like what you're experiencing, even though you've returned them all the items, they're still playing with your money. If you had supplier credit, it wouldn't matter, right? Because hey, you got your stuff back, and then you'll pay. Then they would be coming to you for the difference for the fees. Right. So, one of the things I tell people, because one of the things besides, and obviously this, I never thought about this particular scenario. So it's not like I created it for that, but I use it because a lot of times I've had, in my experiences, suppliers send the wrong stuff. And if the supplier makes a mistake and you wrote them a check, it's hard for you to have leverage over them. But if you bought it on credit and they made a mistake, let's say the hard drives were the wrong size, then you say, hey, look, you guys clearly made the mistake. Get the right stuff out here. I'm not paying for this because the government's not going to accept it. And it's more for that reason, right? One is, obviously, you don't tie up your cash. Even if you had the $100,000, I tell people, even if you have it, don't use it, because there's a host of reasons why that things could go wrong and that you're not in control over. And so why is it? Because let's say, for example, you put the $100,000 out and the supplier they delayed your order, or they delayed the shipment. There's just other reasons why I tell people that it's just best to try and go ahead and get supplier credit. But definitely something we could talk about offline. Anything else related to the situation? So at the end of the day, right now, everyone's gotten their orders back. You're just waiting for your money. So it's not, like you said, you kind of dodged a bullet here, so to speak.
I was just raised. I was raised instead of put down.
Yeah. No, listen, I really thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that, because again, a lot of people, they don't share the information, or they don't want to share it publicly, and that doesn't help the next person. And if someone had done that, then you could have avoided the situation. But I will say, I guess one of the things that was, like you said, by the grace, you did not send the tracking number. And so I guess one of the things you would say to people is not to provide the tracking number.
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to say that if I had provided, if anybody is insisting on a tracking number, that is a huge red
flag. Right.
I don't think the government would do. They might, even if the government were to say, send me a tracking number. If you don't send it, they'll probably leave it alone.
No, the government, they're not. I've never had a government ask me for a tracking number before.
Okay, well that's a red flag then, right?
Yeah, I've never. Now that you think about that, I mean, they ask you when it's going to be delivered, right? That's your responsibility. Right. They don't track it.
Right. Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anytime I ask you for a tracking number, yeah.
Okay, that's a good telltale sign. Okay, listen, stay around. I'm gonna go ahead and end the call, but stay on, and so we can talk afterwards. How was that interview? What did I tell you? I mean, look, Dionne was a good sport, and I'm telling you, she had a really positive attitude about the situation. But had it been me or you, what? I already know. But listen, today, what are some of the things that you can do, you can look for so that you can avoid being in the same situation? One is typos. Look for typos. We think that maybe the person was rushing or something like that, but don't give people the benefit of the doubt. Oftentimes, the government is using spell check, and they're written things professional. So if you find typos on, oftentimes grammatical errors, that's because the person probably has a challenge with the English language. So again, if you see any typos, definitely, be cautious of that. Direct solicitations, as we stated in the beginning of the video, it's very far few in between that you're going to receive a direct solicitation that's unsolicited. Okay, I mean, I received a direct solicitation today as well, but it was someone that picked up the phone, called me, and said, "Eric, would you like me to talk to you about it, or would you like me to email it?" I knew exactly who it was coming from. I've met with the person. I've spoken with them. So again, but if you get a direct solicitation from a stranger, from an agency or an entity that you've never spoken to, or you've never engaged in any kind of way, you've never changed business card with, that's a red flag. Email address. I know that in the example, she said that the email address said .gov, but when you click reply, that was the name of it, right? But when you actually click reply and you could see where it was being sent to, that said .org. So again, email addresses are tricky. They know how to mask and appear as though it's going to a .gov. But in fact, when you look at it, just like when you look at the URLs at the top, I tell people all the time, you may click a link that says NavSup or NavFac, and then when you click the link, if you look at it, it says something, NavFac, but the URL in the beginning will have some sort of prefix. So again, make sure you're checking the URLs and you're checking the actual email address. Urgency. That's something that I saw that happened in the email they sent me. They're like, "Oh, this is urgent, it has to be done today." Okay, well, if it's so urgent that it has to be done today and you don't even know who I am, that's a problem. Like that's a concern, because that's not the way that the government typically operates. Now, again, granted, if you've worked with the agency in the past, the rules go out the window. So if you work with the agency, the people, that's a whole different ball game. But we're talking about people out here who are brand new, have never worked with the agency, you've never actually even gotten any contracts, and they are thinking that someone just happened to reach out to them because they're special, I guess. I'm not really sure. So again, be leery of that. Now, if you find yourself in this situation, what are some of the things that you can do? One is, if you've received an email like this, they just delete it. Don't try to go after the person. That's the information that I've been given. That's information I'm sharing with everyone out there. Just delete the email. But if you find yourself a victim, and at the same token, you've actually sent some items, or you've paid some money, or you've got some money on the line and some products on the line, and you think that it went somewhere else, it was shipped somewhere else, call the person who you believe it was, call the actual person and let them know, because oftentimes the same person that defrauded you and used their name has done it multiple times. So that the government officer, the government agent will know that this is a fraud, and they will likely point you to the right agency or person to open up an investigation for that. So again, there's no one specific agency that you should talk to, but if you go directly to the source of where the problem originated, so in my example, it's this guy, Sean Hung, the small business specialist. If I were to call him up and say, hey, I sent, $50,000 worth of supplies to your office. Apparently, it was a fraud. They will be the ones to go back into their agency and the bureau and find out who should we be talking to take this to the next level. Hope this helps. Make sure you share this with everybody you know. Forward this video to people. We want to get the word out because I hate to see good people being taken advantage of. I hate to see bad people getting taken advantage of. I don't want anybody to get taken advantage of because these scammers are preying on you, they're preying on me, and they're preying on us. And so the idea is to make money, not to lose it. All right. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.